Hello, welcome to a video about building on SMITE. This is the ps4 version. The reason for making this video is because a lot of people seem to be struggling when it comes to builds. I've seen some people build copy builds without adjusting it, which is incorrect. I've only seen a couple people build semi decently, the rest have been quite inefficient. So let's explain why and what you should be doing. So we're going to start off with hunters because these are probably the easiest to cover. So hunters are basically the damage class. In this game they're very squishy. They're basically all about meant to be doing damage. Now when it comes to hunters, you basically want to try and get as much early game power as possible cheaply, and then you basically want to build as many different stats as you can to get that power out effectively. A lot of people have been building just pure power and then neglecting the other stats, which is actually the incorrect way of doing it because you're not being efficient. What I mean by that is basically if you are, say, level 10 and you've built boots and crit, say Deathbreaker, which I've seen a lot of people do, and your attack speed is around about 1.111 with 140, which is pretty slow if I'm honest with you. In fact, that's the attack speed boot, so I could probably knock it down even further. Just bear with me a second. No, that is warrior boots. Don't correct me. Well, I was wrong now. Anyway, the point I'm making is if you do something like that, your attack speed is faster, you're doing pretty much, well, very close. In fact, you're doing more damage than just boots into Deathbreaker. So yeah. The key point here I'm trying to make is that you want to try and build as balanced as possible. So you want to do something like, I don't know, that. That's an example of a balanced build. I've got attack speed, I've got power, I've got pen, I've got everything I really want, pretty much. I've got mana, everything. So yeah, a lot of people have just fallen into the trap of, well, more power is good, but not always. If you can't deal out the damage quickly, you're not actually being efficient with it. If you get to level 20, for example, and you just literally build crit, you're only doing 170. That's not good. So for example, if I went something like this, I'm doing 190 and I'm firing faster. Yeah, that's 1.2 attack speed, so that's attacks per second versus that for 3 items. Yeah, that should say all it pretty much in a nutshell. The point I'm trying to make here is for hunters, you basically want to try and balance things out. Now you can edit the build towards the end game if, say, for example, you didn't feel that certain items weren't doing enough or you were losing boxing wise. You could always go into frostbound, etc, etc. You could even convert to a crit build if you felt like you needed to do a bit of damage, but you would need attack speed because crit without attack speed is not good. It's like putting a V8 engine into a Mini. It's not really going to do much. Yes, it's going to make loud noises, a lot of power, but you're going to be sliding about everywhere and there's nothing else in the equation. So, yeah. Okay. Moving on from that, we will basically go into mages. Now, mages are a lot simpler. Mages are normally a class which are 5 off of power and pen. That's pretty much the core items you need. Now, you can, for certain mages, use power, pen, cooldown. That's actually pretty good for mages. Most mages do like cooldown, some of them. Or you can just go full power. But you need to have pen. You will notice again, pen comes up, penetration, it's extremely useful. But yeah. You can have some leeway with regards to mages. something like that is pretty good for physical matchups. Say for example someone's a low-key and they keep ganking you, you get cooldown, you get the mana, and then you build the pen next. And then you can swap that out later for another cooldown item for more power. That's fine, that's good. The point I'm trying to make is you want to have a set of core items in mind for your classes. You basically want to build those and then customize your class around that. But that's the core idea which you need. Right then, so warriors, after I told you about it. Warriors are generally a class which they don't do that well from damage. So power in this case, they normally want to be more frontliney. And that means you need to build them tanky. So I normally go with boots, and then and then I'll go like that. That's pretty much my normal warrior build for Bellona. As you can see, she has a very low attack speed at rank 20, so she doesn't scale that well. But she does have a lot of health at that, and she does do quite a bit of damage, even though she is pretty slow attacking wise. But that's a good build. I've seen people go with something like this, and yes, you may be like doing damage, but you're not actually scaling that well. If you compare between what I did a second ago and that, you will see 1.39 to, what was it, 1.8. That's not a big increase. That's terrible returns for the cost. There are certain warriors which do work with it, like Osiris and Ravana, but these two are the exceptions. You can build attack speed on them, but they're not that good in regards to that. You normally just want to build like one attack speed item, and then you want to go from there. So you can see I've got a similar build to each other, so there you go. Anyway, so moving on from this, again, core build. You basically want to have core idea. I normally build boots, defensive, problem solved. It's easy. It's as simple as that. 3 items normally are core for pretty much all the classes. Guardians are basically the tank, so you want to go tanky. Normally I go with tanky items, and I do love me cooldown, so I will go with something like that. That's my core item. Get cooldown, get protections, got health. Simple. And then I just fill it out from there what I need. Easy. Moving on to assassins. This is where things do get interesting. Now, I've seen people build crit on assassins, and I think this is a mistake. The only classes which I think crit actually does make sense are hunters, but even then I don't feel that they are worthwhile because they're ridiculously expensive, and you need to have attack speed items to get anything out of it, and pen, and you don't have much room for that at all, in my view. So how do you build assassins? Well, depending on what assassins you normally do. Normally you want to go with damage and pen, and then cooldown. So more cooldown, 2 damage items, and 2 defensive items, and pen. As you can see, my builds are pretty much standard-ish. They all sort of follow the same idea, whereas I want cooldown, defense, attack. Simple as that. But you're starting to see a pattern appear, which is I will normally come up with like a core items that make sense for those gods and go from there. Now, assassins are probably the weakest class I know little about, but certain ones actually do work quite well with attack speed. You should be noticing a trend here that most gods don't actually work with attack speed apart from a couple, which are mainly hunters. Hunters scale really well with attack speed. Assassins, everyone else really doesn't. Magical power, mages scale really well. Warriors, defense, they scale okay. Damage, they scale okay. Guardians, they scale good with defense items used. You start to see a pattern here. High reds want you to use certain items with certain gods and certain god types. But I hope this video is making the point that you basically want to have a general idea of what you're doing with your build. You just don't want to be throwing stuff in because it's got more power or anything like that. General rule of thumb, lifesteal is pretty terrible on like everything. Well, I found it to be pretty terrible. I generally avoid it. However, there are exceptions to the rule. And there you go. Kali, which is a god I haven't played yet. She actually does quite well with attack speed. If you look at that, you can see she scales ridiculously well. Kali is one of those gods where if you get stuck on someone in the late game, you can pretty much melt them. She's very much the instant kill, single target assassin. Very much like Loki-ish. Which I'd say she's better than Loki, but she takes a while to get there. So, I'm rambling on now, but I hope this makes somewhat sense, and I hope that's useful. Probably not, but there you go.